Hey there and welcome. Today we are going to get right into a proven step-by-step plan for managers who need to cut their maintenance costs by a whopping 20%. Now, the secret here isn't just about taking a knife to the budget. It's actually about going after the root cause of high costs to begin with. So let's just jump right in.
So let me guess. Your boss just walked into your office and said something like, "Hey, we need to find savings in the maintenance budget, and we need to do it now," right? It's a pressure pretty much every manager in this field feels. But what if I told you that order to just cut costs is actually pushing you in the complete wrong direction?
This quote right here, this is the core idea we're digging into today. The most common cost-cutting plans, they fail. And they fail because they focus on a line item in a spreadsheet instead of the real problem, which is failure itself. We're going to flip that entire script and show you that the only sustainable way to bring costs down is to bring failures down first.
And to get there, first, we need to properly identify what the real enemy is. Then I'm going to walk you through a clear 4-step battle plan. After that, we'll look at some real-world proof, to show this actually works. We'll answer some of your biggest questions. And finally, we'll talk about making that huge shift from being reactive to being in control.
Okay, first things first, we have to properly identify our target. Because if you're aiming at the budget, you're looking in the wrong place. You're going to miss the real source of the problem every single time. Take a look at this. This chart basically visualizes the chaos. In a typical plant, more than half, 55% of all the maintenance effort is reactive. We're talking unplanned, firefighting, scrambling, and it's incredibly inefficient. This is where your money is literally vanishing into thin air.
And all that chaos? Well, it's unbelievably expensive. Every single reactive job costs 3, 4, even 5 times more than the exact same job would have cost if you'd been able to plan for it. We're not talking a little bit more here. It is a fundamentally more wasteful way to operate.
Let's make this super concrete, okay? A simple bearing replacement, if you plan it, maybe it costs you around 120 euros. But when that same bearing fails out of the blue on a Tuesday afternoon, the cost just explodes. We're talking thousands once you add up the overtime, the production that comes to a screeching halt, and the rush shipping for parts. This difference, this is exactly where your real savings are hiding.
So here's the bottom line. Forget about all those complicated, fancy initiatives for a second. The 80-20 rule is crystal clear in maintenance. 80% of your potential savings are locked up in just 2 fundamental areas: slashing that reactive, unplanned work and getting really disciplined about your planning. That's it.
All right, so now we know the enemy isn't the budget. It's the chaos. So let's get to the actionable part. Here is a proven 4-step plan that will get you predictable, repeatable results.
Now listen, the sequence here is absolutely critical. First, you measure where you are. Second, you attack that reactive work head-on. Third, you install real discipline. And only then, fourth, do you start optimizing the finer details. You can't skip ahead because each one of these steps builds on the one before it. So let's talk about step 1. Before you can proudly claim a 20% cost reduction, you need an honest picture of where you're starting from. You've got to track your cost as a percentage of your asset value, your ratio of planned versus unplanned work, and your key reliability numbers like MTBF, that's mean time between failure, and MTTR, mean time to repair. This data, this is going to be your compass for everything else.
Okay, step 2 is the main event. Your number 1 goal, your top priority, is to wrestle that reactive work number down below 30%. Seriously, this isn't just one piece of the puzzle, it pretty much is the puzzle. If you can hit this target, that alone can deliver almost your entire cost reduction goal. It's that powerful.
Now, once you've got that reactive work under control, you can finally focus on step 3, planning. Just look at this chart. In a typical reactive plant, technicians spend maybe 35% of their day with a tool in their hand, what we call wrench time. The rest of the day is just lost, waiting for parts, getting instructions, you name it. Good planning boosts that number all the way up to 55%. That's a massive productivity gain from the exact same team.
And that brings us to step 4. You have got to stop thinking of your spare parts warehouse and your reliability team as being in 2 different worlds. They are directly connected. You need to align your inventory with how critical your assets are, and then use your failure data to sick your reliability team on the repeat problems to solve them for good.
So this all sounds pretty good in theory, right? But does it actually work out in the real world? Well, let's take a look at some proof from actual facilities that followed this exact playbook.
Okay, so our first stop is a plastics injection molding plant. They were running pretty much flat out, high utilization, and you guessed it, Over half of their maintenance work was reactive. Overtime wasn't an exception, it was just a normal part of the week.
So what did they do? They did two really simple, powerful things. First, they totally rebuilt their preventative maintenance plans based on what was actually breaking, not just what the manual said. And second, they standardized their failure codes so their data actually started to make sense. And the result? Reactive work plummeted from 52 down to 28%, and their total costs fell by 21%. And they did all that in just 9 months.
All right, our second example is a food processing facility. Now, their problem wasn't so much constant failures, it was just pure inefficiency. Their technicians were spending most of their time just chasing their tails, with priorities changing by the hour and no real preparation.
Their solution was all about discipline. They brought in a weekly schedule that was frozen 48 hours in advance, no more last-minute changes, and they made sure every single job plan was 100% complete before anyone picked up a wrench. Look at the impact. Wrench time shot up to 55%, and their labor cost for every job dropped by 15%, all without changing a single person on the team.
So at this point, you've probably got some questions bubbling up, and that's great. So let's just tackle the most common ones I hear head-on with some quick, practical answers.
So what's a good cost benchmark to aim for? You want to be in that 2 to 5% range of your replacement asset value. That's what it would cost to just replace everything you have. How much reactive work is actually okay? Get below 30%, that's your goal. World class is below 20, by the way. How long is this all going to take? You got to be patient. Expect 9 to 18 months to really see that full 20% impact. And the fastest lever for results, it is almost always improving your planning and scheduling discipline.
Okay, let's bring all this together. The journey we've just laid out, it really is about a fundamental shift in how you think. It's about moving your entire department from a constant state of reaction to a state of control.
And if you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. Your goal is not to cut budgets. Your goal is to eliminate waste. Real, lasting cost reduction isn't something you do, it's the natural result, the byproduct you get when you run your operation with control, with discipline, and with decisions that are backed by good data.
So as we wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with one question to take back to your team. You now know how to get your baseline, how to see the real truth of what's happening in your operation. The only question left is this: what is the very first inefficiency you are going to go out there and eliminate?